Hello folks, welcome to the next installment of Let's Play AGEOD's Civil War. I have to apologize right now, we are two turns beyond the previous video. I recorded a video for the last turn and somehow it got corrupted and it doesn't exist, it got destroyed. So we're two turns in the future. Let me briefly summarize what I did last turn to catch you guys up. Luckily, I didn't do any tutorial-like stuff. I just moved units around and hit go. So over here in these extra areas, California, Oregon, a lot of troops that were locked in the beginning of the game became unlocked. So I started to move them all over here into Missouri so I can have a cavalry force available in Missouri for when I go attacking down this way towards Springfield and beyond. I also moved some troops under this General Wood and under General Lyon here over towards Rolla, Missouri and Jefferson City, Missouri, which were undefended, so I took them both without a battle. So there's our first progress of the game. I took those two cities, but there was no battle to show you, so it was actually fairly uneventful. I will put both these guys on defensive mode. I had put them on attack mode. That's what this orange button is for. But I put him back in defense mode to now just sit there and defend these two towns while I get things organized over there. A lot of the units that I had raised in Illinois and Indiana completed, so I started moving them off to St. Louis. Uh, Nothing really happened in the east. My defensive force here in Harpers Ferry is now basically complete. Look at all the units that are sitting there trying to defend that area. The other thing that I did last turn is here in the ledger. I raised a bunch of reinforcements. I raised a bunch of units in Pennsylvania that I'm going to send here to Pittsburgh to defend this area. I know it's sort of ahistorical, but the AI in this game sort of likes to attack off in this direction towards Pittsburgh, Wheeling, Grafton, which is fairly smart of it because uh, they can get past my Washington D.C. defenses and such and get more into the core of my holdings by going in this area. So I'm going to set up some defenses there in Pittsburgh. I've also raised some units here in Indiana and Ohio that I'm going to send to these two generals that I uh, sent there earlier in preparation for moving into Kentucky, who is still sitting on the fence. I'm waiting for them to decide what they're going to do. So, yeah, I raised those troops. The other thing of note that I did, you see here this total blockade uh, option is available for me to click again, and I'll click it. But last turn, it was still unavailable. Uh, Total blockade is something you can click twice a year. And the same goes for call for volunteers, which you recall I clicked earlier. Now it's available again. And there are a few financial options. I can issue bonds, I can tax. And last turn, because these are also things I can do twice a year, I clicked both of those to raise me a good pile of money before these options reset. So now they've reset and I can click them again, but I won't do that right now because I have a good pile of money already available, having clicked them last turn. So that summarizes what I did last turn. This turn, there isn't a heck of a lot to do. I'm just going to leave my units in Missouri sitting there waiting for all these reinforcements to arrive in St. Louis. And but the real big exciting thing going on is my large army in Alexandria has finally become available for me to use. They're rested up, and if I click on one of the units, you see there's still some red, but they're mostly ready to go. So I'm going to use them this turn. Let's see, how much time do I have left? Because I'm about halfway through this video. Good. So let's talk briefly about command penalties. So each of these stacks right now is being led by one-star general. And if you look over here to the right, you'll see a glowing 10%. That 10% means that this stack is currently fighting 10% less strong than it actually could be because this general is being overwhelmed. We've given him more troops than he can easily manage and he can easily handle. Now the way this works is the general generates command points. I forget, it's the one-star general generates something like 2 command points. And each of these units has a cost. So this unit costs 3 command points, this costs 1. So since this general isn't generating enough command points to handle the 4 command cost of these two, you get a penalty. If you look at some of these other divisions, like the 5th division, its penalty is now 30% because there's only this one general has to command all these troops, and he's sort of not capable of doing it. So that's why on the very first turn of the second turn of the game, I sent 6 generals over here to help bolster the generals that popped up with this army. So I'm going to send this 2-star into the 1st division, this 2-star into the 5th division. I've changed my mind, the 3rd division, which has a bigger penalty. And I'll send these 1-stars off into all these other divisions. So there. By doing that, so you see this stack, which before had a 10% penalty, and now doesn't have a penalty at all because it has 2 generals in command. You can't stack an infinite number of generals into each stack. When it comes to 1-stars, I think you can put 2 of them. If I put a 3rd general in here, he really wouldn't be having any effect because only the top 2 generals are working. You got to pay attention to all those details. But you'll still see some of these stacks are working on a penalty, even with 2 generals. This is too many troops for those 2 generals to handle. So I'm going to pull some of these troops out of each of these stacks. I'll pull this guy out of here. So now that penalty went away. I'm going to take these artillery batteries and move them off into some other stacks. I'm going to pull 2 guys out of this one. So the result of my having moved all that around, I don't know if you caught all of it, but each of these stacks has a penalty, but it shouldn't be more than 5 or 10%. This guy's at 5, 5. This guy doesn't have a penalty, a 10% penalty, and a 5% penalty. So by adding more generals and rearranging the units, I was able to minimize all those penalties. And now, since these guys are active, I'm going to send them off to Manassas to attack. Manassas has a small militia unit apparently guarding it. So I'm going to attack. So let me move all these divisions, these stacks, over here. I shouldn't really call them divisions because we'll actually be making formal divisions later. For the moment, these are just stacks. Alright, so there I've moved all of them off to Manassas. You see I tried to click this orange button for each of them, which would put them all into attack mode, but I wasn't able to do that. This 3rd division, for instance, I can't click the orange button because this commander who's in charge is not currently activated. So you're seeing what the strategic number for each of these generals does. This guy's strategic rating is 3, which means he's only active about half the time. This turn, he happens not to be active. But some of these other generals, this guy's not active, but Erasmus Keyes here, he is active, so I was able to put him in attack mode. So I'm sending all 5 of these stacks off to Manassas, but only some of them are in attack mode, because those are the ones who happen to be active. The other strange thing that happened is I got a free balloon unit, but for some reason it appeared down here in North Carolina, which I have no idea why that happened. Usually it appears in New York or something. So I'll just send him walking off to Washington, D.C., and he may get destroyed on the way. That's okay, I guess. So this video should be coming to a close. I don't think there's anything else I need to do right now. I believe I already checked my replacement. Oh, I didn't. Let's make sure this is all filled up. There you go. And I think next turn I'll be raising some more units, but I'm not going to be doing that right now. So I'm going to click end turn, and we'll see the result of this attack. So here we go, and let's see what happens. That sound tells me that we should be getting to the end of this video. I got less than a minute left, but hopefully this gets processed. We can see the result within that minute. There